Fancy meeting you fine gentlemen here after a little break.
I don't need your small talk. All right? I'm here to do a job.
I'm here to slap your genitals with my notebook.
Okay. Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable.
The distant past in this case.
I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I'm whoever you want me to be.
And today we're throwing Vampyr onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims. If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then make sure you leave us a review on your favorite podcasting site. If you do the YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and click the bell. We have a website, sorta. It's wegiveYouBrainworms.com, and then here you can join our Funky Fresh Discord server. You'll also notice there's a Patreon link right next to the Discord link, and that is where you could go to directly support the show.
We're members supported by viewers like you.
Yeah. This season is all about old
Black and white film.
old movies.
As season 6 rears its ugly head.
So we started with Vampyr, 1932.
Yep.
Hell to the fucking yeah.
Woo!
So because of the weird way that the cast was set up, before JD starts with his explanations of the director and everything like that,
I'm going to kiss him.
I'm going to quickly give out the names of the cast.
Do what you want.
You're as free as a bird now.
All right, yeah. So Nicholas de Gunsberg, who was credited as Julian West, which was a weird take.
I'm going to explain that. I have an explanation.
And that's Alan Gray. Rena Mandel is Giselle. Sybil Schmitz is Leon. Jan Hieromenko is the village doctor. Henriette Gerard is the vampire Marguerite Chopin. Marie Schutz is the Lord of the Manor, which I guess is Alan Gray. It was hard to follow.
It was a little hard to follow sometimes.
Albert Bross was the old servant. The Inn Babani was the old servant's wife. That's what it was. Yeah.
Cool.
Jane Morrow was the nurse. Georges Bioden is the soldier with the prosthetic leg.
We don't know how to pronounce things here at the Butcher Block Horror Podcast.
So there you go. That's the cast.
Ultimately,
I will not be interjecting cast members as JD introduces characters.
But you will be interjecting with other things.
Yeah, this wasn't my finest experience with cinema. So
I was having fun.
But you did get to sit with the likes of us.
That's the only thing that made it worthwhile. But yeah, JD, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vampyr?
I would love that. And so I begin. Vampyr was released May 6th in Germany, then in Paris, France, September of 1932. It has a runtime of 73 minutes. Very little bit of information on the budget, although we can assume they saved money employing a cast of mostly unprofessional actors. They did most of the shooting of the film, everything on location in Counterpierre. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sure, that sounds good.
Say it however you want.
Anyway, they shot the film between 1930 and 31. The chateau that was used was absolutely fucking miserable. The cast and crew had to tolerate freezing cold temperatures, and the place was literally infested with rats.
I mean, that tracks.
Yeah. It was a well-chosen location.
Basically, around this time in France, it was pretty common for smaller artistic experimental films to be independently financed. So I suppose in 1930, everything is kind of an experiment. But anyway, the film was financed by a wealthy aristocrat by the name of Nicholas de Gunsberg, a.k.a. Julian West. He's also playing the film's leading role of Alan Gray. So it's no coincidence, Gunsberg, a.k.a. West, agrees to flip the bill in exchange for the leading role.
That makes sense.
And so now for a word about the director, Carl Theodor Dreyer.
Ted Theodore Logan?
Wild Stallions.
Dreyer was born in Copenhagen, February 3rd of 1889. He passed away in March of 1968. Director with 22 credits in film. His career began in 1919. with a film titled The President. It's kind of like a murder story. And his first real horror film came out in 1920, titled The Parson's Window. And then Vampyr in 1932. Then he worked on a short horror drama titled They Caught the Fairy in 1948. Other than that, not much else to really say for Dreyer, other than he was involved with a solid handful of documentary films of different lengths.
Cool.
So, on to the plot of Vampyr.
This is the part I'm excited for, because I still have no fucking clue what happened.
Well...
And I've now watched that movie basically twice.
You were very drunk now, and also when we were watching the film.
I don't have a drinking problem, Joe. I have a cocaine problem. Get your story straight. You have the drinking problem.
Is it a problem, though? You're pretty productive.
It happens.
You're a functional cocaine addict.
I'm not an addict. Okay, I could stop anytime I want.
That's what they all say.
Yeah.
I just choose not to stop.
No? All right. So, in the dead of night, which really looked
in
like
the middle of the night.
Daytime.
I go walking in my sleep.
Oh, wow. I didn't know we were about to pop into some Billy Joel tunes from the 80s, but I'm here for it.
I can always pop into some Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Look, man, Joe started it. I just continued it.
Since we're on this tangent, everyone should name their favorite Billy Joel song.
The Piano Man.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of the basic answer, but I think it is Piano Man.
Always a Woman to Me. That's a great song.
That's a good one, too, yeah.
That's a beautiful song. Great piano. Anyway, so in the dead of night, no pun intended, we meet Alan Gray, who visits an inn.
Who kind of looks like H.P. Lovecraft a little bit.
Yeah,
he really
definitely.
does.
He really did. Might have been the haircut.
It might have been the eyes and the cheekbones and the mouth line, too.
So hopefully he is not also a dead racist.
I mean, it was 1932.
Yeah, I think
more than
everybody
likely.
was at least.
Chances are.
Yeah.
I actually had not to interrupt completely, but I had like this weird, trying to fall asleep last night. I had this like weird sort of dream, but I was still kind of awake. It was like almost like a daydream, but at night while I was trying to sleep.
A night dream.
About being an anti-fascist, anti-racist in the 30s and what that would have looked like.
Oh, wow.
Those movements existed during that time. That's where the three arrows symbol came from, was anti-fascist in that era, because it's easy to spray paint over a swastika.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm talking like in the film industry, like that kind of stuff, like being in the film industry.
Oh, sure.
You know, and pulling like a George Romero, you know, and being like, yeah, my lead actor is going to be this black guy. And if you have a problem with that, you can go find a bag of dicks and just eat the whole bag all at once.
You could make just openly racist. Like, I think that's when Birth of
a Nation, yeah.
Yeah, when that came out.
Which, you know, cinema is a powerful tool to manipulate minds and things.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So if you could counter that with film, that would be excellent.
But no one was.
No one was.
Like, people were for sure like writing books. Those ideas existed, but not in the film industry.
I just wonder how quickly I would have been assassinated doing stuff like that.
Because you could just make openly racist ass movies and it was fine to do.
Right.
Yeah, but like the reverse of that, like making openly anti-racist, like shitting on white is right mentality,
Sure.
you know? Like, oh yeah, there's their master race, the human race. We are all genetically the same. You pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
So
that's
yeah,
what I
Alan
was
Gray,
saying.
should I get back into that
just
character?
If you want, man.
Tell us what happened in this movie so that Joe and I know what happened.
And so I can go back to sleep.
All right, let me go for it so Joe can get his Z's. Alan Gray visits an inn as, you know, he's this weary traveler who rents a room for a night's sleep.
And is he a wizard?
Well, that's unclear.
What was clear about him? Is that he was just a traveler? Like, that's it?
Well, I know the lens of the camera wasn't clear because there was often a thin piece of gauze there to create a atmospheric, dreamlike state.
Mm-hmm. Which was effective.
It was a pretty cool little cinematography trick.
Yeah.
I do have to say that the score was pretty solid, and it was
score
done by
was amazing.
Wolfgang Zeller.
Yes. And I mean, really, the film was shot gorgeously and syncopated with the music in a pretty wonderful way, so I applaud all of that part of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we're being, I think, hypercritical of something that came out in 32 and then set up a genre pretty much.
I feel like we're being pretty complimentary.
Yeah, I'm not here to, like, extend a fucking palm leaf, man. I'm here to talk about what I liked and didn't like about the movie.
Then let's do it. So,
Yeah.
Gray's sort of sleeping, and he is awakened abruptly by an old-ass man who enters his room.
Yeah. I hate it when weird old men pop into my hotel room.
Magically turning the key.
Yeah, he did turn the key. This old gentleman enters Gray's room and leaves a square-shaped packet on Gray's table. It's got some wrapping paper covering the item. We don't quite know what it is yet, but we see, I had to read a translation, but it says, "To be opened upon my death." Those are the words written on the wrapping paper of the package. Anyway.
I would have opened it anyway just to spite him.
Well, not just that. I got to interject here.
Go for it.
If he had opened it before the old guy died,
It could have solved a lot of shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he could have stopped everything before the old guy died.
But would we have had a movie?
Look, man, I'm trying to parse this out here in a way that I feel comfortable.
But yeah, I would have opened it in front of him while making direct eye contact. Just out of spite.
I would have just been like, why do I have to wait till you die? Like, before opening it, just before we get into this relationship we're establishing.
Well, I suppose you do forfeit that happy, like, I'm opening the Christmas present in front of you, or the birthday gift. It's like part of the joy of giving someone a gift is so you could watch them open it. So really, that guy was like doing a thing,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think more importantly, what was the purpose of not opening it until he died? Was he under the sway of the vampire and we didn't know it?
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I was very confused.
Yeah, and that's fair. But this was on the cusp of being a silent film. It was actually intended to be a silent film, and this was actually the director's first talking picture. So anyway, Greg grabs the package and heads out the door, following...
No comments, Joe?
Because JD said package?
Well, not just that. He said grab the package.
I was going to let it roll by.
You guys are
Really?
dumbasses.
Yeah.
I really expected you to get in. I mean, you made use of the package thing earlier.
Well, maybe he got it out of his system, and now he's being emotionally mature enough to lay off.
Grabbing the package seemed like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Too easy.
All right. There we
That
go.
was
Flawless
incredible,
victory.
Joe, and I thank you for it.
Flawless victory.
Yep. That's like when Sub-Zero reaches into his opponent's face, grabs him by the skull, and rips his entire... You see the spinal cord still connected to the skull? It's great. Anyway.
Good.
Yeah.
Our next podcast will be 90s arcade games. And were they violent enough or too violent? That's the real question.
Yeah. They inspired a lot, I'd say.
Yeah.
What about Mortal Porn Combat?
Was that a thing?
I don't know.
Mortal Comscat? Or Mortal Comskeet?
God damn it. Hold on.
Mortal Combat?
Mortal Comskeet.
Mortal Kombat porn parody.
Oh my god.
Because
Wow.
now I have to know. Oh, they took the it's just Mortal Kombat, a Triple X parody. It's not.
They didn't even do
They didn't do
Mortal
a fun
Kombat.
pun.
No clever puns. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, it saddens me. Well, if we want to make changes, we have to be the change. So
Yeah.
I guess we're going to have to commission and produce a Mortal Kombat porn parody called Mortal Kombat.
So basically what you're saying is we should dress up like Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade and just fuck each other and film it.
I want to be Raiden and shoot skeet out my fingertips.
Nice.
I want to hire actual porn actors.
I'm going to money
sure.
shot you guys.
I guess we'll
with
do
my...
it your way.
Never mind.
I'm just saying, while I'm sure there's a place for a porn that's just us modeling off of different Mortal Kombat characters fucking each other, I'm sure that exists.
I don't know. It feels like the amateur scene's getting pretty intense out there.
Someone will pay for it.
Yeah, we could probably get more people to pay for it if there are actual porn stars.
Foiled again.
Look, Joe, if you want to fuck, if you wanted to fuck, right, there's no need to have this elaborate plan put together with Mortal Kombat being we can just do it.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Hey, guys, remember this movie called Vampyr from 1932?
I'd rather talk about Mortal Kombat, honestly.
No, I
but-
mean, I guess let's continue.
Let me reel you both back in the boat. Come on.
JD,
I'll help you up.
Talk about this fucking movie.
All right, I got the net under you. Get in.
Fine.
Okay, so Gray follows these shadows, and the shadows are dancing and doing their own thing in a cool, spooky way. He then encounters an elderly woman, later identified as Marguerite Chopin, followed by an elderly man, later identified as the village doctor.
Who is kooky.
He's a fun guy.
He is creepy and kooky. He's altogether spooky.
He kind of looks like Mark Twain.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit Einstein.
Yeah, and he did have Einstein vibes. That's where I was spinning next.
Mark Twain and Einstein look very similar.
True.
So maybe he's like a hybrid of the two.
Maybe they're the same person.
Whoa.
It's, wow, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
My perception of everything has just been shattered. Thanks, Joe.
Did I blow your mind?
You sure did. And my weenus.
By
Are we going back
grabbing
to
your
Mortal
low-hanging
Kombat,
fruit?
Joe? Is that?
Yeah.
Get your mouth off my elbow, Joe. Oh my
What
God.
would fatalities be like in Mortal Kombat, Joe?
It would be like hentai, where like coming would be the fatality, I think, was how that would go.
Okay. Instead of dying and being ripped apart, whatnot,
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
just
You
be
would just
coming
climax
everywhere.
explosively.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to have to slap the parental advisory on this episode.
Look, if people are letting their children listen to this podcast,
Horror podcast.
they have done this to themselves.
I mean, and also, what child is going to be amused by any of this?
Good point. I mean, really, what adult?
Yeah.
But still, hopefully they'll give us some money in the Patreon. Anyway,
Yeah.
links in the corner.
Like sympathy pay.
Yeah. Pay us to stop.
These stupid bastards. All right, I feel bad for them. Here's $3.
So Gray then leaves the castle and strolls over to this other old, gorgeous structure, a mansion of sorts. Gray peers through its windows and sees presumably the Lord of the Manor,
Or the
who
Lord of the Rings.
also happens to be the Lord of the Rings, a.k.a. the very same guy who set the package on his table earlier in the film.
Sit my package on your table.
But he just walked into his room. All right, I'm just saying.
The man
Yeah.
is suddenly murdered via gunshot.
Shadow gunshot, right?
Mhm.
Shadowy gunshots. Then Gray enters the house, led in by servants, and they all rush in to assist the injured man, but his wounds are grave and it's a bit late, so he's there slipping away.
And they're giving him spoonfuls of water, not ice cream, which was pretty disheartening.
Could be castor oil, because they did weird shit like that in
Yeah.
the 30s. Eat a spoonful of this oil.
All I'm saying is, Joe, if you bear witness to me being shot by a shadow ghost thing, right?
You want
Yeah.
some like peppermint chip ice cream or something instead.
No, I want fish food. I would like my final moments to be you spoon feeding me Ben & Jerry's fish food.
Little Cherry Garcia or something.
This is a silly conversation, but it could have been like laudanum or opium that they were feeding him.
Eases pain. No, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
That makes more sense than any of the dumb shit that we were saying during the movie.
That tracks way harder.
I mean, it looks like water, though. Like, have spoons of this water.
A spoonful of water.
Makes the shadow bullet go down. Where are we going with this?
I don't know.
So anyway, this dude, he got a cap busted in his ass and he's dead.
A shadow cap.
So the servants insist that Gray stay the night in the mansion.
Yep.
Which is really weird because they didn't know him.
And he was just peeking in the window, witnessing this murder. And they're like, hey, you want to crash here?
Like the Lord of the Manor was just killed.
How about you stay the night?
Yeah, they're like, hey, look, we don't know you, but you got great eyes.
You got a good vibe.
Yeah, you look like H.P. Lovecraft. You got that spooky vibe. We're DTF. So anyway, we also meet Giselle, who is the daughter of the man who'd been shot dead. And she leads Gray to the mansion's library, where she describes to Gray that her sister is extremely ill, and that would be Leon. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Leon, but anyway, she wanders outside, so they follow her to figure out what the fuck is going on. And then they find her unconscious on the ground with a pair of fresh bite marks on her neck.
Mhm.
So they have her carried back inside immediately and returned to bed. And right around then, Gray remembers the package with the writing on it, and he decides to open it up, now that our dude is shot dead. So, he's tearing open the package.
It was very nice of him to wait until the guy had died before he opened it.
Yeah, he's followed instructions very well.
Just carry it around in his back pocket until he's dead now. I can open it.
I'd like to watch him put together like a cabinet from IKEA or something.
Yeah. What if he had just killed him? That's what I wondered. If he was like, oh, I can't open this until you're dead, and he just strangles him, like on the spot. Like, oh, well, I want to know what's in this, but I will respect your wishes.
Good night, sir.
It's like the equivalent of shaking your presents to see what's in it.
Yeah, except for shaking your present is strangling the guy to death.
Yeah.
You just murder the person who gave you the present so you can open it quicker. That's all.
There you go. Yep.
So inside the package, Gray finds a book about demons called vampires. And these horrific beasts can force the living into submission.
Well, children and young adults.
Yeah. Well, they could, bend you to your will, I suppose. And if we don't know, there are probably a lot of other conditions connected to being a vampire that we're not aware of.
I'm just saying the book said that they drink the blood of children and young adults.
Yeah.
Which I guess means that we're safe.
Yeah.
One would hope.
Like, they're not coming for us. Our blood's too old.
So it occurs to Gray that Leon was the victim of such an evil creature, the vampire. So the village doctor comes to pay the house call to Leon, and it's the old man from outside the castle, of course. So the doctor explains that the only way to treat Leon is with a transfusion of Gray's blood. He's eager to help, He wants to save her.
Yeah, he's a really helpful guy for just kind of finding himself in a weird and kind of stupid situation.
Yeah, and anytime you're in the middle of a fever dream, what do? You roll up your sleeve, you donate blood.
Yeah.
That's what you do. So after the transfusion, Gray is extremely exhausted from the blood loss, so he basically passes out. One of the servants takes a good gander at that evil vampire book, though, and teaches himself a thing or two. Vampires can be killed by driving an iron stake through their heart, apparently.
Into the ground.
Into the ground, yes.
That was important because that nails their vile spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Prevents them from rising from their graves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you got to anchor them somehow. So Gray awakens in a panic with a strong need to check on Leon. So he rushes over to her bedside. It is there he discovers that the doctor is attempting to poison the young girl. The doctor takes the fuck off, and Giselle is nowhere to be found either. So Gray decides to follow the doctor, but on the way to wherever he thinks he's headed, Gray experiences a pretty cool out-of-body experience / premonition, very abstract. He's able to watch his own corpse be buried by Marguerite Chopin and the doctor. So Gray finds a way back to his body eventually, and then follows the eldest servant over to Marguerite Chopin's grave. They open her grave, a big old slab that he leveraged with whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like a crowbar.
Yeah, so he gets that going. And they find the old woman perfectly intact. She's well preserved.
As one does, just dig up old women.
Yeah, that's the next logical step.
Yeah.
They hammer an iron rod through her heart, instantly killing her. And so presumably the curse of the vampire is now lifted and Leon miraculously recovers. We still have some issues. The ghost of the lord of the mansion, he appears and chases the doctor out of his place. Doesn't need him around.
Get out of here.
Kills the limping soldier.
Yes.
Would have been much funnier if he had chased him out with like a broom.
Just any object, a stick of salami, some,
What?
I don't know. That sounded right.
All right.
I'm a big fan of using cured meats as a weapon.
Sure.
Right. They seem like they would sting, at least, if you were slapped with one.
What if you attached 2 summer sausages together to make nunchucks?
That would be fucking sick.
I think that sounds like a cartoon way to beat the shit out of somebody, but I'm down.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you could also adorn a cheese pizza with pepperonis that way if you're a Ninja Turtle.
What?
That's the correct response. Gray rescues Giselle, who was tied up. The doctor hides out in an old mill and finds himself locked inside one of its chambers. They really liked showing the machinery in this movie. It was
Yeah, I was going to comment on that too.
Lots
They
of
really
gears.
just lovingly caressed all the mill machinery with the cameras.
And it was an interesting setup. So you got to utilize, you got to show what you know. So the old servant shows up, activating the mill's machinery, filling the chamber with flour, which pretty grotesque way to die, but he suffocates the dude inside.
I still think he could much better served. A lot of wasted time there. If he wanted to make it slow, he could have just held him underwater or something.
Sure.
Or stuck his head in those grinding gears. Just push him in there.
Yep.
Let that thing chew him up.
But nope, flour was slowly dumped on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen a baking item used to murder someone.
Does a rolling pin count? Because if a rolling pin is a baking item, I've seen that used to murder people. And
let me correct that. A baking ingredient.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Probably fucking over that town's bread supply for months.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, I'm sure they were real concerned about how clean that was, Jeff.
Well, what's interesting is, so, when you die, you supposedly shit and piss yourself, but it was in flour, so hopefully they were able to just scoop it out like, kitty litter or something.
I mean, that tracks for me. That works. Yeah.
But I feel like I hurt Joe's brain with that. Are you okay?
Yeah, I mean, I took a lot of food sanitation to cross. It's I mean, you also, for other reasons, are very familiar with cross-contamination.
I'm not saying I'd want anything to do with that flour. I'm just saying...
You're saying the village would be fine with it.
The village might be all right.
Okay,
yeah.
I see. I thought you were just no, that's fine. They can just fucking eat it. Whatever.
Yeah, they're still going to have dinner. They might just leave out the rolls. You know what I mean?
Scooping out a litter box, just scoop the chunks out and then leave the rest.
Yep.
Yeah, just... leave the third behind that the man was buried in. So he's covered with flour until death and suffocates. And then we find Giselle and Gray, and they could be seen crossing a foggy river via a little boat. Was that correct?
Yep.
And so then they find themselves victorious as shit in a well-lit clearing, the end.
Now, do you think that was a happy ever after ending, or do you think that was one of those endings where it's this is a metaphor for death?
Probably a metaphor for death, but I like to think,
I can see it going either way.
Yeah.
I still don't know.
The question is, do you care?
You want me to be honest?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
No, lie to us.
Yeah, I don't care.
I didn't think you would.
I don't care what happened. All right, well, let's talk about the cinematographer and the writer.
Yeah. The cinematographer was Rudolf Mattei, who was a Polish-Hungarian-American cinematographer, who also worked as a director, a producer, a cameraman throughout the early years of film. He was born in 1898. He did a lot of directing and a lot of cinematography through the early days of cinema up into the 50s.
And I love his work in this.
Yeah, there was some cool stuff. The kind of transparency thing that they did with the overlaying the film on top of other film when he was having the out-of-body experience was very cool.
Oh, yeah. And the perspective burial where you're having, dirt thrown down on top of the person being buried. I think that was the first time in cinema that anything like that had ever happened.
Oh, nice. There were some weird framing choices that I didn't understand where the action was left of center, and I didn't really understand what that was about.
Maybe they were just trying to go for some type of asymmetry to make composition more visually interesting.
Maybe. But yeah, that's who did that. Written also by Carl Theodor Dreyer, the director, and all the other things that he did for this movie. So I won't really go deep into that. But it was inspired by a short story by Sheridan Le Fanu, who was one of the godfathers of the gothic horror genre.
So do you think the text on screen was quote straight from that writing? Or?
It felt like it might have been.
Okay. I love the writing, the translation at least was very interesting, and it was worded in such a way that I felt very dark and thought-provoking and went well with the images.
Yeah, it looks like Dreyer draws from two of the stories for Vampyr. One being Carmilla, which was a lesbian vampire story, and then the other being The Room in the Dragon Volant, about a live burial.
Sure.
Awesome.
Dreyer had actually found it difficult to decide on a title for the film. He was torn between Destiny and Shadows of Hell.
Well, I'm glad he took the most obvious path.
Yeah. Shadows of Hell would have been way cooler.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's all I care to say about that.
Excellent. All right, let's go with special effects. JD.
Special effects. Okay. The special effects artist that was uncredited, but who I was able to find anyway, was Henry Armand. And this film was his only credit doing anything in cinema, really. So, and not much information on him. But, we could actually talk about the effects that we witnessed. The use of shadows were well employed.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned earlier, there was some light gauze draped over the lens of the camera to give the overall aesthetic a very dreamy, foggy type of quality to it. I mean, there really wasn't, this is the great-great-grandfather of early horror, so, there wasn't a whole lot of... I think there was one character with an actual facial deformity that was involved. I don't know that was any type of makeup.
Yeah, it was less special effects and more like lighting and cinematography.
Yeah, most of it was boiled down to that specifically. But there was a skeleton involved when Marguerite Chopin was exhumed from her grave, and before, as she had the stake driven through her heart, she had sort of went from being, a pristine older woman to being a skeleton quickly. So whatever trick they used there was interesting for the time. As far as the special effects goes, that's really as deep as I'm able to go with that. So,
and I'm pretty sure those weren't prop bones. I think those were just human remains.
Yeah, I'm quite confident of that as well. We had a few scenes in the film where you get to see a human skull, and those all appeared to be real.
Right then, well, let's go ahead and discuss our personal experience with the film. Joe, why don't you start us off?
Yep. I have watched this movie before for like film nerd reasons.
Big surprise.
Oh my God. And I like it for that. Like my attention kind of wandered a couple times during this watching. But it's a very good example of early horror in terms of learning that language of camera angles and lighting and shadow. Like there's a lot that you can learn from it that, influenced horror through the generations essentially. But it's a little hard to just watch with your buddies because there's very little dialogue. There are long stretches where not a ton feels like it's happening.
Or at least doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like it's real abstract. You kind of have to be in a certain headspace to really stick with it. But it is worth watching once if you can get your brain into that place.
Excellent. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I'm good.
Is that it?
Yeah.
You're good? All right. JD, what do we got here?
Yeah, I can add to what Joe was saying about it being hard to stay tethered to the plot without any sort of real dialogue happening. And then when you are reading something, you're at least from the French or German version to English translation, it wasn't really feeling like it was going along at every moment with the images. So there was just a lot being left to your imagination. So in that respect, it's like when you're reading something and imagining like what's happening, but you don't even have much of that going on. But you're being shown what to imagine by the images on the screen. So it's like, it kind of fills in blanks for you in ways that, for me, I still just loved a lot of the visuals. It's like a really beautiful film. I own this really unique box set version of the movie. It's like a little DVD thing, and I'm a sucker for the packaging and all of that stuff, the collectible whatever.
You said packaging.
I sure did. But anyway, it's something that I purchased some years back. I've watched it a few times and just always felt like it was an important film for, reasons of just being the time that it was created. It sort of set the precedent for a lot of films to come. And I believe that this was actually being filmed along the same timeline of Dracula, but Dracula ended up being released first. So it's interesting, if you look at that film, it's a talking picture, and this one is borderline being a silent film,
Mhm.
how different the two vampire stories are told. We have this character with Dracula being the vampire. You could go, oh yeah, he's the one creating the nuisance. But then in this movie, it's kind of like, for most of the movie, it's very unclear who the vampire is. You know, you have this prop that is a book that kind of describes vampires and how to deal with them. So there's just a whole lot being left to your imagination in this film. And I kind of enjoy that about it, but also does kind of make it very dreamlike in every way.
Right.
You watch it, but you stay detached from most of it.
Yeah. You have to be in a certain state of mind, I think, to really focus in on it.
Yep. It's very artsy-fartsy.
Sure.
So yeah, Kane, how about sharing your personal impression with the film?
I've actually never seen this before.
Okay.
I attempted to watch it earlier before we met up just to try to have something to talk about. And I had a hard time watching it just because.
Let's give them something to talk about.
Yeah, Joe, that's what we're going to do now.
Getting all Bonnie Raitt on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
I do agree that like some of the shots were really fun to look at.
Uh-huh.
But the story itself was just like, okay, what's happening? Why is this? Why are they doing that? Like, why did you go into this building?
Mm-hmm.
The ending is a good example. Why did the village doctor go into the flower processing plant? Like, why?
Yeah, what was he doing in there?
Why? Like, you ran away from the Lord of the Manor's house, right? You ran away from your misdeeds.
Yeah.
Why was the first stop? You're like, you know what I need to do? I need to get to the flour mill.
Yeah, I need to go fuck around in the mill for reasons.
Yeah, and that's going to plague me.
Maybe you just needed some flour, Kane.
He wasn't looking for flour, Joe. He was wandering around.
Shit, I just escaped my horrible crime. I got to go make a batch of gravy, and
I've got to get some flour together to make some scones.
Yeah,
he's going to conjure up a thick roux for some étouffée.
He's going to make a bechamel sauce. Like, you don't know that guy's life.
All right, I'm done. Anyway, yeah, I didn't really connect to this film very well.
Sure.
I could see where it's important to horror history.
Right.
If I could go back to when we were choosing the films for this season, knowing what I know now,
you would have shot this out of the sky, wouldn't you have?
I would have replaced this with Dracula.
Let's just throw out this whole recording and we'll watch Dracula.
That's too late now. I do think that we're going to need to take a movie out and put Dracula in.
Sure.
Because these movies came out one right after the other. This one actually came out after.
Just do a 14-episode season. Fuck it.
I don't need you to tell us what to do in that regard, Joe. I didn't decide on the 13 episodes, all right? Okay? That wasn't my decision.
I pushed for it because 13's, the
Yeah,
spooky number.
I like where your head's at. I think 13's a good number.
Yeah, so instead, I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up covering Dracula this season.
Oh, but you're just being punitive because JD said 13 episodes. So anytime someone suggests, well, we can do a bonus episode, you're just like, no, because JD decided 13 episodes and I'm just going to be a petty asshole about it.
Is that what it is? I'm being petty by being like, oh, we've been doing 13 episodes for 5 seasons. Oh, we'll change it up on this one so that we can add an extra.
Rules are meant to be broken, Kane.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
I don't either.
Vampire 1932.
Look, if you watched Vampire, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
You can find us at WeGiveYouBrainworms.com as well as anywhere else that podcasts live.
It's true.
If you do the YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe.
Come follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, and click the bell.
Yeah, there's a bell. You got to do it. Next week, we're covering Frankenstein. Nice Boris Karloff Frankenstein.
I love Frankenstein. That's my dude.
That one will be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I think that's it. I think we're good. I think we're going to hit the button.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really want to eat some curry.
Do it.
Later, Gators. Yeah, you look like H.P. Lovecraft. You got that spooky vibe. We're DTF.